Okay, let's have a look at the thrusting motions in 133. Before we go into that, I need to explain how to cut with the sword, so then it's easier for you to understand how the thrusting is actually done. So with the sword we always have this front edge and then we have this back edge. So the front edge and the back edge. Then we also have the flat. One interesting thing about using the flat, it can be also used as a strike. It's commonly used if you are practicing with a sharp sword. So this is historical. I know at least two references. One is Pt.4 sword fighting, the other one is from North Africa. So if the only sword you had would be a sharp one, and then you would be having these kind of leather shields, and you were practicing with your friends. So for one thing, you wouldn't like to damage your blade edge, and the other thing, you wouldn't like to damage the shields either. This would be like super expensive stuff, you know. So instead, you would be slapping, fighting with the flat. So if you accidentally hit your training partner, usually no big damage done. So same reason with Kevsurs in Georgia. So they would be using the flat, or if they would be having a saber, then they would turn the short edge or the back edge, which has no edge in the saber, it's totally blunt, against your opponent and use that, or they would have the sword sideways. So in the context of 133, it's difficult to say if they actually sometimes striking with the flat. And of course the strikes can be done with the flat that you just before you hit somebody. So you have the sword like normally in your hand, but just before you hit somebody, you turn the sword so that you are actually hitting with the flat instead of the edge. That has also been done historically when practicing. So either way, just interesting piece of information. If you want to really practice like they did with sharps, that's the way to go, use a flat. And then you have the sword grip is something like this. So you are using the, placing your thumb on the flat as well. And extra benefit is of course that if the sword blade is flexible, like here, if you hit somebody, it will not hurt so much because this will flex. So really, you know, medieval time to practice with sharp swords. I don't know if this has been explained anywhere else. Oh, you know it? Okay. Back to thrusting. So, but before that, cutting. So we can cut with the front edge. This is typically done like this or upward. So you're coming in the front edge first and you're cutting with that. So that's the most basic way to do it. The other way is to cut with the back edge. So how it's done? Now this is related to turning the wrist. So if I'm normally cutting from here with the front edge, once I pass the center line, which would be the impact point, I will turn my wrist. So now the sword moves, if you can see, it moves with the back edge forward here. So this is like coming in with the front edge. Here I hit, and then I start to turn my wrist so that I can park the sword here. Or vice versa, if I cut from high to low, I cut here, front edge, impact, and then I need to turn my palm up so that I can continue the motion. Same story from this side. So cutting with the front edge, impact, and then I start to rotate my wrist so I get here. Vice versa, cutting here, downward, impact, I'm rotating my wrist, I get here for example, or here. So we have this wrist turning motion. But what if we want to cut with the back edge? It's kind of easy. So instead of the standard cut with the front edge here, now we start to turn the wrist a little bit earlier. So when the sword impacts, it's now impacting with the back edge. And then we just go here. From here, same story, I turn my wrist. Now I cut with the back edge, I end up here. If I cut from here, I start the cut, I turn my wrist, and this comes, now it hits with the back edge, it goes here. And from here it's the same story, I start cutting, but I turn my wrist, and then the sword comes down with the back edge, it ends up here. This is maybe a little bit difficult cut to pull out, but it can be done. Usually I wouldn't do it like that, I would cut it like horizontal high. So then it would be looking like this, which some people like to say it's a nukken, but nukken can be done also like this. This is maybe more accurate in the manual. But if you really want to cut with the back edge, just cut it as the high horizontal like we discussed in the previous one. So then it's easy. And you can cut high horizontal from here as well. You can cut low horizontal with the back edge, low horizontal, or just the horizontal with the back edge. So the back edge cutting, it's quite useful if you can use it, because you can get it around the shield, even around a big shield. And if you're cutting it like downward, you can hit the other guy's back even. You can cut it upward, so if they put the shield here, you just step and cut around it. From this side you can do it also. It's more difficult, but you can do it. This is theoretically workable, but I would do it like horizontal. It's really difficult for the wrist. Okay, so now we had front edge cutting, and then we had this back edge cutting as well. So now you see, it doesn't matter. So the basic strikes are still the same, independent of if I use the front edge or the back edge or the flat. And now comes the important part related to thrusting. So if you look at the back edge cutting, it's already looking like a thrust, right? So it's already almost like a thrust. Already almost like a thrust. Almost like a thrust. So the secret here is that any cut you do, even the horizontal, can be turned into a thrust. Any cut. Any cutting direction. So in that respect, it even doesn't matter that if you cut or thrust basically. Of course it does in actual fighting, but you can choose what you do. So once you are somewhere, if you are here, you can select, am I gonna be cutting with the front edge, back edge, or am I gonna be thrusting? So now comes the hard part. So we have like two different kinds of thrusting basically, and these are related to how the sword is moving when we come into this thrusting initiation position. So it depends. So if your intention is to like do a cutting like motion, what you do, you will turn the wrist. It's a little bit like you would be initiating the back edge cut, but instead you don't go immediately forward. This would be back edge cut. This would be back edge cut. Instead, you do the turn here and then you extend into thrusting. So you would be extending into thrusting like this. So from here, you extend. If you would be cutting, you would be cutting like this. But now, if you are thrusting, you turn it sword here. So now we are facing forward, and then you thrust. If you are coming high here, you turn it here. I think you can find this image in some of the manuscript images from the Middle Ages. But it's only that you have cut here, and you now change into thrusting. You go here. So instead of coming forward with the back edge, you take the tip forward by turning the wrist, and then you push. Same story from this side. So no cutting, no back edge cutting. Instead we turn the tip, and then we are pushing downward from here. So it's like this. Turn and then push Otherwise you end up in a mess because you don't know if you're cutting or thrusting. So from below, same story. So this would be like a back edge cut. So it's this, whoa, over there. But if I'm thrusting, you take the sword here first. And this is, by the way, very close to the 6th guard, right? So you take the sword here first and then you extend. Same thing from the left side. So let's say we go below to the 1st. Instead of making this back edge cut, you turn the sword first, going into 6th, and then you thrust. So it's this kind of motion. It's not exact science. It's the basic idea how to do it. So what about the if you have been cutting upward? And this is going to be important. I will show you later why. This movement. So then, of course, depending on the situation, it's going to be really simple. So the easiest way is when you cut upward. So these previous ones we based on like taking the base of cutting with the back edge as a basis for the thrust, right? So it was basis of the thrust, back edge, and then thrust, back edge, thrust, or back edge, thrust. Now we can also take the front edge cut as a basis for the thrust. So if the standard front edge cut would be this, how do we thrust? So you just go here into the 6th and then you extend. Something like this. From the 3rd guard, same story. So this would be the cut. But if you want to thrust, you take the tip forward and you push. Just tip forward and push. Tip forward and push. So the basis of this kind of thrusting is the front edge cut. The basis for this previous kind of thrusting was the back edge cut. So this is why it's so complicated, really. It's not. But you need to understand that the basis for thrusting is in the cutting, actually. And it depending on like if you are going in with the palm down with the back edge or palm up with the front edge, your thrusting motions will be a little bit different. So it's always like you check that, okay, my palm is down, then I'm gonna be executing this kind of thrust. But if I'm going from the left side. So palm down, I'm gonna be doing the thrusting like this. Palm down here, palm down here. If it's palm up, it's here. If it's palm up from here, it's gonna be different. Usually this comes like downward. But if I'm cutting from here, it's like this. So you either end up in the thrust basically palm up or palm down as well. So that's the difference. Of course, with the thrusting fencing, this is super important to know if your palm is up or down and where you are, but it's the same here. This will make sense. I will explain soon how it goes in practice. Okay, so that was the basis of thrusting based on the guards, the 7 guards basically. So if you can cut from there, you can always thrust, and then just think that, am I going like with the front edge or back edge? Front edge or back edge. So the back edge thrusts tend to come from the little bit more from the outside. Here. Usually you can take them outside, but if you're using the front edge, then they are coming from this 6th guard. So this is like inside. So I don't know which one is used in the manual in all cases. Certainly, at least for the practice scenarios, it seems to be that this kind of front edge first kind of thrusting would be, you know, but you can also do this if you want. So it's totally valid. You end up in the same kind of situations anyway. So I don't know, and maybe I don't even care because it's still the same thing basically. Okay, so then we have, so this was the first mode. So we are working from the guards. But what if we are working from the Schützen positions? So if you remember, Schützen is a situation when we are defending, so we are already being attacked and we are now making contact with the opponent's sword. This side or low positions. So it's either way. So we will have to be able to thrust from the Schützen as well. And this is a little bit different from the previous stuff if you want to thrust from the guards. But let me explain. So let's take one example. How to practice this easily. So let's say we are in this half shield, somewhere here, and somebody is thrusting to this side of my body or face, kind of high thrust. So what I will do, I will just rotate my sword down. So I'm gonna be catching this blade here, and then I'm gonna be stepping here and pushing it down. So I end up here. This kind of thing. So now I'm facing that way a little bit. And if I want to thrust from here, the only thing is that I have to change my facing to the camera, which is like this. So the whole thing looks like boom. The other way around, it looks like this. So we have always this. These motions are still based on cuts, in this case upward, but it looks a little bit different. So from the side, so we are here, somebody is thrusting, I will catch the blade, I will push it, I'm using big motions here, push it down, I get here, and then I will thrust. So I catch it, I'm facing that way, and then when I thrust I will just turn to face my opponent here. From the other way around, you're going to be catching it, dropping it. So it's really simple movement. Catch, drop. Okay, so those are used if you get like a incoming high thrust. You push it down and then you, or even a middle thrust. If somebody's thrusting like this, you can catch it. You could actually even, you don't have to go below your shield. You can do this, and then when you turn back, this is the thrust coming in. So super simple. But what if we are low already in this kind of Schützen kind of or long point? Then it's the opposite. So what we do is somebody is thrusting high. Now we have to choose like which way do we want to go, but let's say thrust is coming a little bit on this side, so it makes sense for me to move there. So I will make this semicircle once again. So I will catch it here. Now my sword is up, and then I do this kind of thrust. So if I'm below, I'm gonna catch it here and then just thrust. Catch it, I'm facing that way, but then I will face my opponent again. So just catch it. Yeah. So this kind of movement. So this way you take control of the sword first and then you thrust. Take control of the sword first and then you thrust. You can put the shield where you want. Typically it's in between your hand and the opponent's weapon, but it depends. It's maybe more important with this kind of sword that doesn't have the crossguard at all. Okay, so if I put the shield away, so the low parries would be semicircle here, thrust, semicircle here, thrust, and the high parries would be semicircle here, thrust, semicircle here, thrust. That's it. That's from the Schützen. And the motions are based on upward cutting here for the high parries. So if you are, let's say, in the middle of the cut, this is like advanced. You can always go into Schützen here, right? You can push the other guy's sword down, or you can do it just like we did. You can catch it here and then thrust. If you're cutting from here, you can go upward, thrust. If you're cutting down, you can take it from here, thrust. If you're cutting down, you can take it from here and thrust. So all these motions are super easy to understand if you understand the figure 8 movement of the sword. Without that, no way. But this is still based on the same movement. So if I'm catching here, thrusting here, catching here, thrusting here, it's actually figure 8 once again. Looks different, yeah, but it's not the same. I wish I could make this more clear. I don't have a training partner here. I will show this later with somebody. Okay, so we had a different kind of thrusting from the guards. So this is like with front edge. This is then with the back edge. Then we had the Schützen, so Schützen first kind of thrusting. So this is based on the semicircle kind of movement. Thrust, thrust, and then from below it's gonna be like this. Thrust, semicircle, thrust. And those are the thrusts you basically need. That's all. That's the basics. That's the core principles behind it. And as a final note, I think this was verified. This is in the secondary book. So there's this guy, Heinrich von Gunterrode. So he at one time had this manual, basically in the late of Middle Ages. And he had a friend who was somehow educated, at least in sword fighting. So Heinrich was discussing this I.33 manual or manuscript with the other guy, and then wrote his own. And this is available in the net. So in that book, there is a description that how the thrusts are parried. And the parrying description motion, it's this semicircle kind of thing. So use the semicircle kind of motion to parry the thrusts. So this is in that book, there is a diagram. And I can probably put that diagram over here. So you can see that it's like a half circle or half moon kind of picture. And later there's a second picture in which this is embedded on top of other stuff. But the second picture says that it's like stichspärren, so meaning that parrying the thrusts, right? But it's done from the Schützen position, if you do it like that. So if you are here in the guard and somebody is thrusting at you, well, you could still do the semicircle, but I think it's much faster just to cut against the incoming, like it's in the manuscript. So then you just do what you do. But if you are here in the Schützen, and this is also in the I.33 manuscript, there is somebody here, incoming thrust. What they do exactly this semicircle. Or maybe it's something else, but it looks to me, looks like this. And then of course from there you can, if you do it, then there's the thrust. It's also in the Krukke play a little bit like, it's not a thrust parry, but the same motion. So you go here and you thrust. So you go here, Krukke, and then you thrust. So it is there. So that's that. Maybe finally a short explanation. This is once again based on the Heinrich or Gunterrode's explanation of the Hausperren or blocking the strikes. There is also this triangle. I will try to put the triangle here for reference as well. So what's the triangle about? It's a triangle standing on its point, and then you have these different numbers. And the text says that blocking the strikes is taught by using this triangle. So if for thrust we have these circular parries motions, what about the strikes? So I offer one explanation. Might be wrong, might be right. But if you look at the numbers, so the first one is, I think, This is probably not matching, I'm not sure which way the triangle will be in this video, but let's say you have this triangle, so two top corners and my foot is the lower corner. So we have this triangle shape like this. Okay. So the first pari, you put the tip where the number is. So this is the first, and this is in the 133 manuscript. It's in the play when both are in crook and then somebody cuts to the head. So the other guy does this. Then there is the reverse of this. This is the second. And then I think the third is down. So now if the triangle is like this, you can see this is making the lower part of the one side of the triangle over here. And if you turn this up, you have this first play Schützen already there. So it's this, now we are having the triangle like this. And then if you cut down from here, you end up here. So this is now having the lower one side of the triangle. And if you lift it up, you end up here, which is basically the, I think it's the second play Schützen over here. And from here we can go once again to the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. It repeats. I don't know about you guys, but for me this makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. So just by using this triangle here, you can block everything. And it also, interestingly enough, fits the place in 133. Okay, that was a long one, so I think I'll end it here for now, and thanks for coming this far, and let's see what we can learn next time. Take care. Bye bye.